Welcome to the extraordinary meeting, Thursday 17th of January. Just a note that these meetings are live streamed and recorded. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay respects to elders past and present. Second, apologies and leave of absence. Of an apology from Councillor Bruce Wright.
I move that we accept it.
Councillor Lardo, Councillor Ham, all in favour? So we're moving it to be granted leave of absence.
Move that way.
Declarations of pecuniary interest. Any of those? No? Which takes us to Management Report, Climate Change Action, Grant Opportunity, page 2. And I thank Councillor Pritchard for bringing this to our attention.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. There's an advertisement from the Department of Local Government regarding grants for the purpose of increasing resilience to climate change at council level. Obviously, councils can't be involved in the overall the world issue of climate change, nor should we be, but our responsibility is to our local community to increase their resilience and adaptation to climate change. I don't think there's any debate that climate change is occurring, whether it's man-made or whatever. It's not our issue. Our issue is to try and protect our community and take advantages if there are any of climate change. And I think that we should be seriously, we should apply for those sorts of positions, to apply for one of these grants for adaptation, increasing our resilience to climate change. The grants available, I had hoped that we could get one in on the 1st of March, but I think time's a bit short. But there's a substantial amount of money for individual councils, but there's much more money available if you can join with other similar-minded partners. And we are very closely aligned geographically and climate-wise with the Coober-Monaro Regional Council, and I think we should approach them. And also, if we do that, then we should perhaps try and engage Snowy Hydro, because they have an overarching interest between the two council areas.
Councillor Pritchard, thank you for that, Tracy. Would you like to move into committee? Would you like to move into committee so we can fully discuss it? Councillor Pritchard? Councillor Risselman, all in favour? Okay, continue on. Thank you.
Well, there are a number of issues that are really pressing. I think the bushfire risk is one that's very serious. I mean, we've had a record a period of record high temperatures, unfortunately without winds. But if you remember back in 2003 when we did have the winds around Australia, they had a massive bushfire going from all the way from here through to Cooma, and I think through to Canberra at least. And I think we need to be seriously looking at how we're going to protect our townships by having exclusion zones for pine trees, better bushfire breaks around the towns. I think also we have to be looking at how we can protect our water supplies and also our industries. There are opportunities that could occur with climate change, but could make Battlefield far more attractive for housing and give a great opportunity for people from the Riverina who want to retire to a cooler area, and I think that could open up Battlefield and Tumut Room enormously for that. From a horticultural point of view, it could open up the fertile areas around Battlefield and Tumut Room for cold climate, more cold climate vineyards and berries and so forth. So we have opportunities as well. But overall, the bottom line is that climate change is occurring at our level, and we've got an opportunity to plan ahead or to develop our community and take it all together.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Councillor Risselman?
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment, if I may. The actual grant funding is increased resilience to climate change. It doesn't necessarily require us to be of a mind to support climate change or not. It's just resistance and resilience to climate change. So my point is that those of us at the table who may consider climate change not to be something that you believe in, this is not asking you to vote on whether you believe in climate change or not. This is asking you to believe in the fact that we can have a grant here that, as Councillor Pritchard just pointed out, could effectively support our towns and villages, in one example, against bushfire. And that's a significant amount of grant funding that could be available to us that otherwise would not be available to us. So please be aware of it, councillors, if you're not voting to support climate change or not, you're being asked to support the exercise of asking for a grant.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Cross?
What's recommended too is that we do a risk assessment. We've got the Tumut one and we've got the Tumut risk assessments to look at, but they're old, so we need to look at it and doing a new risk assessment, because that's part and parcel of applying for the funding. So I would recommend that we do that fairly quickly. The local government New South Wales website has got a template that we can use to follow if we wish to go down that path of formalising it, as is recommended in getting a grant for this.
So just confirming, we do have risk assessments on climate change.
Yes.
For
yes.
the former Tumut Shire and the former Tumut Shire dated 2012?
Yes, and they were done by the insurance company, Echelon I think it was, that undertook those.
By consultants?
Yes.
Okay.
Insurance consultants.
Councillor Hill.
Councillor Pritchard, thank you for what you've said, and just representing the people of Tooma and Tumbarumba with the blue-green algae in the Manus Dam, I think this is a big issue, and of course it's very topical at the moment with fish dying in Menindee and things like that. So if this is a way that we can get a grant to help with water, and in the IPNR there is we've already identified that Tumba may need a better water supply, and this could also help with water supply. And on hot days like this, the evaporation is just so high that our water supplies are being threatened. So we need water, and it's just essential, however that comes about. So if this grant is the way to go, well done for bringing it to our attention. I did know that you talked about Snorri Monero and being in partnership with Snorri Hydro and maybe other councils. You know, when you do look at Manus Dam and it runs down through Tooma along the river and actually goes right into the river, I think we may consider working with all different councils, because climate change has no boundaries and we need to work towards that.
Another thing we need to look at the health of the communities. And the older people, particularly, and the younger ones, have trouble coping with the high temperatures that we've had. It's all up for us living in air-conditioned council chambers. But we really need to identify the cold areas around the towns where people can go in times of cold, hot weather. I know a lot of people go to the supermarkets, but you only spend so much time there. And we've got the libraries, certainly, but we need to identify the areas.
Go for free pools.
And we should be, and free swimming pools is very important as well. And I think we also should get extra funding for shade trees in our car parks. But this is all long-term stuff, but we have to start, we have to do it. We have to start now and do it.
One of the things that I've been interested in some of the reading that I've been doing about the impact of climate change is on our infrastructure, on our roads, and on our buildings that we have. And we have a typical example of this with the Go-Cut Road, where trucks got stuck in the tar because it had melted. So one of the things that I would be interested to see is when we do make our roads, that we use material that is reflective, because I know that that's available. It's a recycled product, so that we look at the road surface to make sure that that is not going to be impacted on, because that's all part of our deterioration, our what's the word?
Depreciation.
Depreciation. Thank you, Neil. Yes. So.
And I notice also that the species of
yes.
trees that we're planting need to be carefully selected as well.
So, Mr Mayor, coming back to our risk assessment, could I have an update on how that would be undertaken? I mean, if we've got a 7-year-old set of risk assessment, what detail will we need? What commitment from council and directors to actually get a risk assessment up to date.
I'll ask the General Manager to refer that to the responsible director.
Through Mr. Mayor, essentially we would take an approach of reviewing the current risk assessments that, as has been mentioned, is 7 years old. So we wouldn't be starting from scratch, but we'd need to engage some facilitation expertise, particularly climate change expertise, to make sure there is some more contemporary thinking put around it. I understand there's a change to the approach to doing risk assessments at the moment, so that would need to be considered. Then there's also a decision on the books with the council at the moment to undertake a climate change forum, and we think we could practically bring those two tasks together to undertake the risk assessment, but also conduct that forum at the same time.
It'll be a way of engaging the community in this discussion so that we can look at what projects potentially are of interest or of need for our community as well.
That's correct.
And given that we now have identified experts within the community
Yes.
that we can draw upon.
Is it possible that we could hold that forum as like an extraordinary meeting of council, so that there's outcomes and so that there's actual recording of what goes on? Maybe the Emergency Management Committee could be involved in that as well, so we get some expert advice from the RFS and all the other agencies that are perhaps involved.
Can that not happen in a forum? Does it have to go through
Well,
a
I don't think
meeting?
you're bound by it.
Well, there can be recommendations from the forum, but the forum wouldn't be a forum if it was an extraordinary meeting. It'd be an extraordinary meeting, not a forum.
Difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the forum can certainly put a recommendation to us. So I'd be happy to do that.
I'd like to see how we're going, and I know we are working on recycling, and but just I've got a bit of a passion at the moment about agricultural film of all the feed that's being fed out at the moment, and all the silage is covered in that film. And Tuma's actually got a trial there of putting all the film into a bin, and then it gets taken down to plastic forests at Albury, and that gets recycled into that black plastic that goes underneath the slab. That should be across the whole of the council area, things like that. You know.
And so this isn't just about making, sure that you're getting a grant. This is about making sure that our practices, the things we do on an operational level, reflect that philosophy. We should be buying all this recyclable product like they're doing in Tasmania and putting into our roads. I know it costs more, but
But it
that's what
lasts
we should
15
do.
years longer.
Well, that's
Yeah.
right, so it's better value.
All the mattresses and all this sort of stuff. We should be looking for opportunities, not.
I agree.
Yep.
And we've got the land space to do that.
Picking up on your point, Julia, about water, the water quality is going to be a significant issue because our rainfall will be dropping. A quick question, do we actually harvest stormwater, or does it just go where it, what happens to stormwater?
I can't answer that in general. I think we harvest some stormwater off many council buildings. Is that correct? Yeah. And essentially, all water captured is runoff from rain. But I'm not sure if there's been a historical strategic approach to doing that sort of work, like harvesting on every single building to reduce impact on water and demand.
So we need to do an audit, really, to
Yes.
find out.
I think what you'll find is that, from what they're saying, is more extreme weather events, and maybe a reduction in rainfall. But I draw your attention. I don't know whether anyone's seen it, but the historical data for the flow of the Adelong Creek, which was published, I think, about 2012, when they were talking about putting the pipeline in, and it showed a steady decrease over 20 years. And I'll drag that out and send that round to councillors. But that's certainly an example of why we do face risk.
So, Mr Mayor, around our table of councillors here, there are as many project ideas as there are councillors, and many, many more. So I'm fully in support of the idea that we go ahead with the forum that's been proposed, so that we can come into a focus of what we want to achieve. Because if we go too broad, not only will our grant application not necessarily be as strong as it should be, but it's also the manageable nature of the grant application for council to actually administer. So if it goes too broad with too many little pockets of stuff that we wanted to get done, it's going to make it terribly difficult for us in council to actually achieve it. That's not to say that those things that have been spoken about today shouldn't be done, but this is the first step in that direction to actually achieve some of those things. And if we can get footage, like a toehold in getting on with some of these issues, obviously very pertinent issues to everyone, then we've got an opportunity to have an up-to-date risk assessment, an up-to-date forum on climate change, and thank you to Jeff, a position to move forward with that and to achieve something really, really vital to our community.
It's been proactive as well.
I might, Councillor Smith, sorry.
In the notes here, we've got the discussions have already been had with the department, and that the idea is to identify the top 3 risks and to determine whether projects need to be developed to address these. So there is a process suggested by which we narrow down those things that are the greatest risks, and it may well be that Manus Lake is one of those that need attention and that need funding to bring them up to a standard that will help to withstand the ravages of future weather events.
Thank you, Councillor. Just draw your attention, we have a number 4 there on the screen, so councillors can make themselves familiar with that, and then we might move back into council.
I'm happy to move back into council.
Councillor Larder, Councillor Benjamin, all in favour? Carried. Okay, back. Councillors, draw your attention there to the 4 recommendations. Do we have a mover for those? Councillor Pritchard, seconder. Councillor Risselman. Councillor Pritchard.
I think we've been through it all. I think there's an urgent thing, and the community expects us to lead the way, and hopefully we can lead the way for other councils throughout the state, whether they get involved with us or not. I understand the ACT government has a climate change committee or group that is quite active. I don't know anything directly about them, but I think we could contact them for some advice as well. But I think this is a great thing just done, so move the motion.
Thank you.
Just wondering if it's possible that if Councillor Pritchard and the other seconder were happy, that maybe to include governments as well. It's got organisations, but perhaps we could put all government agencies as well, just in case.
Yeah, other organisations and government agencies.
Yeah. Happy with that, Councillor Risselman?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any speakers against? No speakers against? Any further discussion? Put the motion. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. And look, I'd just like to thank Councillor Pritchard for his enthusiasm in this area and his encouragement, and hopefully we can, and also for council staff for putting this extraordinary meeting together as quickly as they did. So it's fitted nicely into our workshop day, so it hasn't created a lot of organisational issues, but thanks very much for everybody involved. That concludes our extraordinary meeting. Thank you very much.